Good evening, students. I hope all of you are doing good and I hope your preparation is going fine. Welcome to today's Analyst. This is 21st of January 2024 and we are here to discuss important articles from The Hindu and the Indian Express. Now, the handout of the session is there in the description box. You may utilize it to streamline your current affairs preparation. Now, coming to the first topic is Directorate of Enforcement and an assessment of ED. Second topic is related to the labor rules for workers who are working abroad. Third topic is related to Ramsar wetland sites. And fourth topic, last but not the least, is related to India-Myanmar border issues and India-Myanmar border in general. Now, coming to the first topic, that is Directorate of Enforcement and an assessment of ED. Now, recently, Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren was quizzed by ED for over 8 hours in tribal land scam case. Now, in relation to our General Studies Paper 2, Statutory, Regulatory and Quasi-Judicial Bodies, this topic becomes very, very important. So, directly coming on to the topic. Now, before assessing the functioning of Enforcement Directorate, the functions associated with it, the criticisms and the suggestions, we need to understand some key informations and some key features about ED. Now, first of all, Enforcement Directorate is a premier financial investigation agency under Government of India. And mind this word that I use the word Premier Financial Investigation Agency. So it is not a statutory body under Government of India. It is an agency under Government of India and a financial investigation agency which implements which laws? Which implements money laundering and foreign exchange laws in our country. Now, it is under which department? It is under Department of Revenue, which is under your Ministry of Finance. So, Directorate of Enforcement, ED, is under Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Now, in 1956, Enforcement Unit was formed. So, earlier in 1956, ED was known as Enforcement Unit. And in 1956, when it was formed, it was called Enforcement Unit. In the next year, 1957, it was renamed as ED Enforcement Directorate. And in 1960, it was shifted from Department of Economic Affairs to Department of Revenue under Ministry of Finance. So that is the chronology. And earlier, this Enforcement Directorate used to implement FERA 1947. So Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1947. After that, your Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1973 came. And now, the Enforcement Directorate enforces FEMA 1999 and PMLA 2002. That is Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 and Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now let us very quickly see what are the laws enforced by Enforcement Directorate. So ED enforces your FEMA 1999, Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Then it also enforces your PMLA 2002, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. It also enforces your Fugitive Economic Offenders Act of 2018. And also the sponsoring organizations under your 1974 Foreign Exchange Conservation and Smuggling Activity Prevention Act. This is also enforced by your Enforcement Directorate. Now, in order to enforce all these laws, what are the functions, key functions performed by ED? The first very key function is that ED is involved in conducting investigations. And conducting investigations under your FEMA Act of 1999, and also they are having the powers to impose penalty. And also they execute the provisions of your Prevention of Money Laundering Act and your Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. So it is conducting investigation under FEMA. It is having the power to impose penalty. It can execute the provisions of PMLA and Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. It is also having the power of conducting search and seizure operations as well. So search and seizures also, this ED is involved in. And it is having all India jurisdiction over all the personals. So that's it about the functioning of Enforcement Directorate. Now coming on to ED's power under PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now this power of ED under PMLA, it is the upshoot of judgment of Supreme Court on the validity of certain provisions under PMLA. Right? So, according to Honorable Supreme Court, the offence of money laundering is as heinous as offence of terrorism. And that is why the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court held that it is not mandatory to give Enforcement Case Information Report ECIR in every case as it is not a FIR. That is what Honorable Supreme Court said. And it also said that the statements made by the accused to ED are considered admissible in the court of law. And also the provision of attachment of property, that is attaching the accused property of the accused as proceeds of crime, it balances the interests of two parties. It balances the interests of accused and the state. That is what Honorable Supreme Court said. And it dealt with the three of the sections, that is Section 3, which defines what is money laundering under PMLA. One is Section 24, which is talking about a reverse burden of proof. And Section 5, which talks about attachment of property. And it said that these three sections will stay. Right? So order of these three sections to stay. And it also said that stringency in granting bail under the PMLA is legal and it is not arbitrary. That is what Honorable Supreme Court said. Now, after understanding these things, it is imperative for us to understand what are the criticisms associated with the functioning of Enforcement Directorate. Now, first criticism which ED is accused of is a misuse of power. Now, according to several experts and according to several leaders of opposition as well, they accuse Enforcement Directorate of misusing their powers because of political interference in the functioning of ED, especially from the ruling parties. And that is why it is said that ED misuses its power against the opposition leaders. Now, that is an accusation which is made by the opposition leaders. It might not be the case in reality, but that is what one point of criticism can be given against ED, which some section of the society believe. And also some section believes that there is lack of transparency and clarity in the functioning of Enforcement Directorate. That is the functions which they perform, and whatever the intricacies of the functions which is there, they are not open to the public. They are not conducted in a transparent way, and clarity is not there based on the provisions enforced by them and the functions performed by them. And that is why if there is lack of transparency and clarity, there would be the problem of low accountability, low accountability as well. And based on these problems, one more accusation is levied on your ED, that is your selective intervention. Now, according to many political parties, according to many functionaries of the government as well, and according to many sections of the society, due to political interference and misuse of power of ED, they are accused of having selective intervention in certain cases. And of course, intervening in the cases of opposition parties and not intervening in the case of people involved in the ruling parties. That is what many people accuse ED of. But one more thing which is a fact, that ED is having a low conviction rate. So from 2005, whatever 5,000 odd cases which have been registered by ED, of that only 0.5% cases have received conviction of any kind. And not even 0.5, it is even lesser than that. So conviction rate is even lesser than 0.5%, which is abysmally very, very low. So this is also one point of criticism which is levied against your Enforcement Directorate. And also lengthy and delayed investigation. So investigations against certain accused, against certain people going on for years at a stretch, for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years, right? Investigations going on, right? And the person who is accused, they are not reaching to the point of conviction, right? Which again resorts to mental harassment, right? So that is one criticism which is again associated with your functioning of ED. And one more criticism is overlapping jurisdiction. According to many experts, ED's functioning overlaps with the jurisdiction of your NIA and CBI. So in certain areas, there is overlapping of the jurisdiction of ED, CBI and NIA. So these all are the points of criticism which is given against the functioning of ED. Now all of them might not be true, but some section of the society believes some criticism to be true. But what is our point of view? What we require is the suggestive measures. That how the functioning of ED can be made even better, can be made efficient, effective and robust. That is what we need to discuss primarily. So we have divided into 5 to 6 heads. Now under those heads, we'll be seeing some suggestive measures. So first is strengthening institutional capacity of Enforcement Directorate. Now, how institutional capacity can be strengthened? First is increasing the staffing. That is recruiting more staff in ED, because ED is suffering from shortage of staff, shortage of personnel. So recruiting more staff, increasing the staffing. Then providing specialized training to all the personals of ED. Not a common training, but specialized training for all the different wings of ED, right? That is one thing which ED can incorporate. Then collaboration with the other agencies. So of course, ED is collaborating with other agencies, but other agencies like CBI or your NIA, National Investigation Authority, the collaboration should be even more efficient. And it should even be more smooth, right? That is how efficiency can be ensured and institutional capacity can be strengthened. So that is your first set of suggestions to improve the functioning of Enforcement Directorate. Another suggestion is to enhance technology and data management. So this is the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0. So technology and enforcement should go hand in hand. That is why ED must involve technological aspects in the functioning as well. And that is why they need to enhance technology and data management. So how will they do so? Modernizing the IT infrastructure which they are having. Because this era is the era of cyber crimes. That is why in order to combat that and combat cyber crimes associated with money laundering, ED's role in modernizing IT infrastructure within their peripheral limit is very, very important. They need to integrate the databases, integrating the databases of different centers of the government as well, different agencies of the government. Of course, one such initiative is ongoing by the government of India, right? Then utilizing artificial intelligence and machine learning by understanding the pattern of exchanges happening in the bank accounts of different people, right? So Fugitive Economics Offenders Act, under that also artificial intelligence can be used. Prevention of Money Laundering Act or Foreign Exchange Management Act. Under these things, artificial intelligence and machine learning can play a very, very vital role in better surveillance and monitoring. So in better surveillance and monitoring part, these tools can be used by the Enforcement Directorate for better implementation of the laws. Now coming to the different head, that is streamlining procedures and processes. Again, to make the functioning more smooth and efficient. So first is they need to simplify the investigation procedures, because we have seen complexity in the implementation procedures and investigation procedures of ED. So there needs to be simplification of that and codification of that, again, to make it more robust. Implementation of a robust asset management system. So whatever the assets which ED is attaching, right, there should be a proper asset management system which is robust, so that the miscalculations which happen, they will not take place. The fourth one is enhancing transparency and accountability. So this is a criticism given by many, that transparency and accountability is low. So suggestion is that they need to enhance it. But in what ways? They can publish annual performance reports, right? Under the different wings of ED, annual performance reports can be made and they can be made public. Establishing external oversight mechanisms, that is also one way, and strengthening internal vigilance mechanisms. So internally, the vigilance mechanisms needs to be strengthened. These are the points which can be incorporated by the ED to make it more transparent, accountable, right? And last but not the least is the capacity building and training measures. That capacity building of ED and training measures needs to be undertaken. Now, under that, they need to conduct regular training programs for staff, which we already discussed, that training of personnel should be done in a specialized way, but they should be regular training programs, small training programs. For example, in artificial intelligence, how machine learning can help in the surveillance program or monitoring program. These kind of regular courses should happen for the staff of ED. And partner with international organizations. Yes, ED partners with the international organization, but that partnership can be strengthened even further, right? So towards that also, Enforcement Directorate can go towards and improve their functioning. So all in all, Enforcement Directorate, it is a very premier financial investigation agency of our country. It's smooth functioning, it's efficient, effective functioning, it's very imperative and important for the smooth ride of our country in the national security and internal security sphere. That is why ED's robustness and improvement in functioning becomes very, very important for us. Now that's all for this topic. Let's move to the next topic, that is your labor rules for workers abroad. Now, with the assistance of your NSDC, that is National Skill Development Corporation, the government of UP and Haryana, they're hiring 10,000 workers, close to 10,000 workers, to go to Israel for construction for construction work. Now, this becomes important for us in relation to GS Paper 2, effect of policies and politics of developed and developing nations on India's interest, and also in relation to Indian diaspora, this topic becomes very, very important. And for your GS Paper 3 also, labor laws, this topic becomes somewhat important, right? Now let us understand the labor rules for the workers who are planning to go abroad from India, right? So first of all, the workers who are wanting to work in the conflict zones or places without sufficient labor protections, they need to register with the Ministry of External Affairs. And what under Ministry of External Affairs? Under a portal that is your e-migrate portal. So under the e-migrate portal of Ministry of External Affairs, these workers needs to register who are wanting to work in the conflict zones or places without sufficient without sufficient labor protections. Now this e-migrate portal, it was launched in the year 2014, and it is nothing but a digital platform to streamline the immigration process of Indian workers. Now the workers who have to register in this portal, they create their profiles, they register employment contracts, and then obtain immigration clearances from this particular portal. That is why e-migrate portal becomes very, very important for the workers who want to go abroad and work, right? Now coming to the ECR scheme, that is Immigration Check Required scheme. Now this is a passport category for Indian nationals who want to work abroad. And this ECR passports are issued in specific circumstances. So ECR passports are given to the people who have not passed their 10th grade or not having their higher education pass certificates and are wanting to work outside the country. They are given to those people ECR passports, right? And they are given, of course, to work in the ECR countries. And in order to work in the ECR countries, they have to obtain an immigration clearance from the Protector of Immigrants, POE, which is under this ECR scheme only. So if they want to go abroad, they need to get immigration clearance, that is EC. And from where will they get the EC? They will get it from the Protector of Immigrants, that is POE. Now the Protector of Immigrants, it grants immigration clearances, that we know, to the intended immigrants. And they perform functions under the Immigration Act of 1983. So the protectors of immigrant, they're performing their functions under their Immigration Act of 1983. And currently, the ECR passport holders, passports ECR schemes, we can go to the 18 countries which have been listed over here if we are having ECR passports. And this data also shows that how many workers are in these ECR countries. First one is your Afghanistan, next one is Bahrain, then Indonesia, then Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Malaysia, Oman, Qatar, then Saudi Arabia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, Thailand, UAE, and Yemen. And in total, close to these many workers are working in these countries. And one more thing, the news is about the workers going abroad and working in Israel for the construction work, right? And Israel is nowhere seen in this list. So Israel is not under the ECR list, right? That is what we need to understand. It's a very, very important information. Israel is not a part of your ECR category under the ECR list, right? Now coming to the collection of service charge from the workers. Again, this is an issue, because we have seen a lot of instances where service charge to the tune of 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees have been charged from the workers. So according to the Government of India, no recruiting agency, right, can collect more than maximum of 30,000 of your service charge from the workers. So not more than 30,000 can be collected from the workers in the form of service charge by the recruiting agency. That is what government has said. And this service charge, it will include the cost of domestic travel or lodging and boarding for conducting of interviews by the recruiting agency. It can include all those things, right? That is about your service charge from the workers. Now what we need to know is the international practices for the labor rules of for the workers who are wanting to go abroad. So international practices, they are governed by usually 2 conventions of your International Labour Organization. First convention is the Migration of Employment Convention 1949, which is revised. Another one is your Migrant Workers Supplementary Provision Convention under your 1975. So one is your Migration for Employment Convention 1949. One is Migrant Worker Convention 1975. So these two conventions regulate the labor rules for the workers who are wanting to work in an international sphere, that is wanting to work abroad. Now, India has neither ratified this convention nor this convention. So, India has not ratified both the conventions. But Israel has ratified one of the convention, ratified the convention of 1949, that is Migration for Employment Convention in the year 1953. So, that's it about the labor rules for the workers who are wanting to go abroad. Coming on to the third topic of today, that is in relation to Ramsar Sites and Ramsar Wetlands. Now, the central government has embarked on a mission, that is your Amrit Dharohar initiative, to promote tourism at ecologically sensitive wetlands. Now, in relation to General Studies Paper 3, Conservation, Environment, Pollution, Degradation, Environmental Impact Assessment, that is your Environment and Ecology, this Ramsar Sites and Ramsar Wetlands becomes very, very important. Now, first of all, we need to know what are these Ramsar Sites. So, Ramsar Sites are the wetland of international importance. So they are the wetlands of international importance under your Ramsar Convention, which is also known as Convention of Wetlands. Now, this is an intergovernmental environmental treaty which was established by the organization known as UNESCO in 1971. And why the name Ramsar Convention? Because it was signed in the city of Ramsar, which is in Iran, right? That is why it is known as Ramsar Convention. So it is a treaty for the conservation of wetlands, right? And it's a convention of wetlands, again, an intergovernmental environmental treaty, which is established by which organization? By UNESCO. Now, what we need to understand is what is the term which we are using, what are wetlands? So wetlands are the swamps, they are the marshes, the lakes, the mud flats, the mangroves, the coral reefs, fens or bodies of water. So any bodies of water can be termed as wetlands, which comes under these categories. So bodies of water, whether natural or artificial or permanent or temporary, can be termed as wetlands. Composed of two words, wet and lands. So the landforms which are wet, that is water bodies in the landforms, right? So they can be swamps, they can be marshes, they can be lakes, they can be mud flats, they can be mangroves, coral reefs, fens or any bodies of water. It can be natural or artificial, permanent or temporary. So that's about your wetlands. And Ramsar sites are the wetlands of international importance under your Ramsar Convention, that is Convention on Wetlands. Now, what are the primary significance of these Ramsar sites? Now, these Ramsar sites, they help in developing and maintaining international network of wetlands, again for conservation of the environment. And it is very important for the conservation of your global biological diversity, and also helps in sustaining human life through what? Through maintenance of ecosystem components and also maintenance of ecosystem processes and benefits. That is an importance of Ramsar Convention and Ramsar sites. And the sites which are listed under the Ramsar Convention, they are protected under the strict guidelines of the convention. So the convention gives a strict guidelines that how these wetlands needs to be preserved, because these wetlands are of international importance. So preservation becomes important, very, very important. So for overall environmental and ecological protection, this Ramsar wetland sites are imperative in nature. And India is having close to 75 Ramsar sites, which includes your Odisha's Chilika Lake, very famous one, then your Bhitarkanika mangroves, West Bengal's Sundarbans, then Chitrangudi Bird Sanctuary in Tamil Nadu, etc. So India's 75 Ramsar sites include a lot many. We'll be seeing them in the map as well. But before that, let us understand what is this Amrit Dharohar initiative. So this Amrit Dharohar initiative, it's part of 2023-2024 budget announcement. In the 2023-2024 budget announcement, two initiatives were listed. One was the initiative of your MISTI, that is your Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Incomes. Now it is again taken up for mangrove plantation, to increase the mangrove plantation along the coastlines and on a salt pan lands. That is your MISTI program, that is your Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes. MISTI. Another one was your Amrit Dharohar. Now, what is this Amrit Dharohar that we need to understand? So, Amrit Dharohar is a scheme which is launched under the budget 2023-2024 to encourage optimal use of wetlands. So, how wetlands can be optimally used and how biodiversity in the wetlands can be enhanced. So, optimal use of wetlands, enhancing the biodiversity, increasing the carbon stock, and ecotourism opportunities. So, in relation to all these things associated with wetlands, Amrit Dharohar initiative was announced. Right? So, again, to promote unique conservation values of the Ramsar sites in the country. It's an initiative which is undertaken under your Union Tourism Ministry, and also your Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Under the Amrit Dharohar Capacity Building Scheme, that is the official name, Amrit Dharohar Capacity Building Scheme of 2023. And if you see the Ramsar sites in India, of course, these include few of the many Ramsar sites in India. The most popular ones are your Chilika Lake, your Bhitrakanika mangroves, your Sundarban wetlands. Then this is your Loktak Lake. Then this is your Wular Lake. This is your Hokera wetland. Then this is your Roper wetland. This is your Harike wetland, right? And this is your Vembanad coal wetland, right? A very, very famous wetland. So this is your Renuka wetland. So all these wetland sites, which are very, very important in nature. First of all, a mapping of these wetland sites is very, very important for your UPSC examination, especially for prelims, right? But overall, what is this Amrit Dharohar initiative? What is this Ramsar Convention? It becomes important for mains as well. But for prelims, the mapping part of Ramsar site, it is very, very important. So what you need to do, you need to sit down, take a physical map of India and probably a political map of India, right? And map all the Ramsar sites in that place, right? So I hope this Ramsar sites is very, very clear to all of you. Now moving on to the last topic of today, that is India-Myanmar border. Now, Union Home Minister has announced that Centre has decided to fence the entire length of the currently porous Indo-Myanmar border. That is what our Union Home Minister has announced. Now, in relation to General Studies Paper 2, India and its neighborhood relations, this India-Myanmar becomes very, very important. Now, first of all, let us see in the map that what is the Indo-Myanmar border. So, Indo-Myanmar border, it stretches to the 1643 kilometer area, right? And it stretches over 4 states. So first of all, this is the northeast region of our country, and this is Myanmar. So this area is Myanmar, and this is the northeast region of our country, right? Now let us see the border area. So this red line over here, this is the border area between India and Myanmar. So Arunachal Pradesh and Myanmar, the border area stretches for 520 kilometer, which is written here, 520 kilometer. Nagaland and Myanmar, it stretches for 215 kilometer, right? The border between Nagaland and Myanmar. The border between Manipur and Myanmar, it stretches for 398 kilometer. It stretches for 398 kilometer, which is over here. And the border between Mizoram and Myanmar, it stretches for 510 kilometer. And altogether, it is a 1643 kilometer, that is 1643 kilometer long border between India and Myanmar. But one thing which we need to know is that only 10 kilometer is fenced in the Manipur region, right? Only 10 kilometer is fenced. And that is what our Union Home Minister has said, that we will go for fencing. And not just normal fencing, but smart fencing, that is digital fencing between India and Myanmar. And the demarcation of 1472 kilometer has been completed as per the Ministry of Home Affairs 2022-2023 annual report. So demarcation of 1472 kilometer border between India and Myanmar has already been completed, according to the report given by your Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, one more extra fact for you, that this map over here, it shows India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, that is IMT highway, which is ongoing and in construction, under construction. This highway will connect India's region from here to that of Myanmar, some areas in Myanmar, and ultimately being connected to the area of Thailand, to the country of Thailand. IMT Trilateral Highway, which is very, very important again for our UPSC examination, especially for the mapping part, right? Now, one more thing under this India-Myanmar border we need to understand is the free movement regime, FMR, between India and Myanmar. Now, this FMR is a pact which allows the tribes in the hilly regions of those areas living along the border on either side, that is on Myanmar and India, to travel up to 16 kilometer inside the other country without any visa. So it allows the tribes which are living inside India's border to the tune of 16 kilometer, they can travel inside Myanmar without any visa, right? And it works both ways. So from Myanmar, also the tribal areas, tribal region can come to the 16-kilometer range inside India's territory without any visa. That is your free movement regime. Is it ongoing currently? The answer is no. So it was implemented in 2018 as a part of government's Act East policy. So government is having its Act East policy. That is, we will not just look towards the eastern world, but we will also act, right, towards the eastern part of our country, right? So Act East policy. So it is a part of Act East policy, this free movement regime. And it is defunct since the year 2020. Now, first reason was because of the COVID pandemic, it got defunct. And after that, when the military coup happened in 2021 in Myanmar, after that, India suspended the free movement regime in September of 2022. So currently, this free movement regime is suspended. And there are hints that free movement regime will be defunct from now on. It's given by the Indian government. Now, the formal order on it is yet to be received by the government and is yet to be released in media. That is why it is only a speculation. But currently, free movement regime is suspended. It is not ongoing. So between India, Myanmar, the border porosity of it, see, one more thing which we need to understand is that the border is very porous. First, demarcation is there of demarcation of also, not the whole border is there, right? But demarcation is there, fencing is not there. That is why porosity is there. That means to and fro movement in and out of the border is there, is existing, right? That is why fencing between the border area becomes very, very important. I hope this India-Myanmar topic is very, very clear to you. So thank you for watching this lecture. Hope you have a nice day. All the very best for your preparation. Good luck.